Yeah, no pay. They're 24 hours. They're always there.
Now I'm thinking about my mom.
Yeah, what are you thinking about her?
I'm thinking about all those nights and everything.
Thank you so much for everything you do. I know it doesn't seem like I appreciate all of it, but I definitely do.
So, Mom, I want to say thank you for everything that you've done. I love you very much. You've been there through thick and thin. My mom is just awesome. She's awesome.
Mamas in the house, stand up. Isn't that true? That is true of you. We honor you this morning. Let's turn this mic up just a little bit, Mike. Well, I love what Lillian posted this morning on Facebook. She said, today we honor cooks, nurses, chauffeurs, counselors, teachers, maids, and referees, in other words, moms. My husband blessed me this morning when Hannah read that aloud in the car, and he said, well, that's way too short of a list. Moms do so much more. Taxi driver, he says, business manager, interior designer, landscaper, landscape designer, culinary artist, slave driver, he said. And I said, okay, well, stop. I cut him off after that because he was digressing. But you get the point. Being a mom is hard. And it's hands down the single most unselfish thing any human can do. Jesus said it like this, no greater love has any man than this, that he laid down his life for another. And that's all moms do. Men win medals and glory for laying their lives down in battle by dying, but I believe it takes even more for a person to live every day, laying down their life every single day. I'm not a preacher. I do not like being behind the microphone. But my husband told me to ask to share a little bit of my story this morning. And so because I'm not a preacher, I'm going to read my thoughts, if that's okay with you guys. Motherhood is the single closest topic of my heart. Growing up, I was never one of those girls who played with Barbie dolls. In fact, I visited a neighbor's house across the street, and she had it all. The 3-story plastic houses, the 2-door car, the silver car, I'll never forget the car, the naked Barbies with 15 outfits and matching high heels, all of it. I knew then that I just did not connect with that world. I never had one of those perfectly shaped bodies. I certainly never saw a sports car or 3-story houses or high heels in my future. I was simply a tomboy, just a girl who grew up on an acre in the country. My parents intentionally left the city life so that we could live in a travel trailer on our own land, and Dad would build our house from ground up, board by board, nail by nail. That acre lot became the breeding ground for all that I am today. I wish they were here today. In that childhood home, I also saw that love built a home. How imperfect people who eat, sleep, and play together also have to give grace and forgive and pray. This house is what I learned what life is not about. It's not about what we own, it's about what we give. I watched my uncle die in the room next to me as my brave mom allowed her brother to live out his last days with AIDS. I heard his suffering with my own ears next to me, and no, it didn't damage me, it built me. I witnessed how love, real love, can heal. My uncle had it all, but the one thing he never had was Christ. And because he was able to experience my mom's unselfish, unconditional love when everyone else was afraid of AIDS, he was healed, and he came to know the love of Christ on his dying day. I watched my aunt come live with us several times. She was married with 3 kids, and my mom was there, always there, to support her sister however she could. And most importantly, I saw what love in a home from parents who love Jesus can do to build a child. My parents were average folks, no fancy jobs, no fancy clothes. They were simply A+ at being there for us kids. Dad always played ball out in the yard with us. Gentry and I would smack the ball that Dad threw us, and our Springer Spaniel would run across the field and go and retrieve it and bring it back. Dad would set up the volleyball net between two trees, and we'd bring over the youth group to play for hours. They built us an above-ground pool because we couldn't afford an in-ground, and we'd love it until we'd play until our fingers shriveled and our hair turned blonde or green. Mom and Dad always took turns in the kitchen. I don't recall ever having any fancy meals, but there was always food in the house, always something. You see, we lived over 30 minutes away from a grocery store, but somehow Mom and Dad always found a way to keep our kitchen stocked with yummy food. Mom and Dad came to my choir concerts, my plays, my musicals. They praised my solos. They made it to my brother Gentry's baseball games and track meets. We always knew Mom and Dad will be there. We never knew or heard of the sacrifices that it took for them to make it happen while they were both working full-time jobs. Dad often picking up side jobs wherever he could, but I never heard him ever complain of the physical stress it put on him. And that's just what parents do. They make money and they serve the family and they show up. I remember many nights sitting on the back of the couch while my family watched Wheel of Fortune that I could put 100 tiny barrettes in my dad's hair. Many of those same nights, Mom would just simply be cross-stitching. Those precious moments I was learning by osmosis that love builds a house, how love builds a life. My parents provided a home, a safe place, a sense of belonging, a sense of value. We had our needs met. When we talked, they listened. Our stories and our revelations were always welcome. We were hugged, high-fived, encouraged, and spanked, and yelled at, and grounded. We got it all. They showed me what love looks like, that you are loved as you are, but you don't stay as you are. You are expected to grow, become responsible, and give. We were expected to do dishes and other chores around the house. I remember helping Dad with many an outside project, and I'm sure I slowed him down. He allowed me to help care for our home. I remember painting our house 3 different colors in my 20 years living there. I remember tilling up the entire yard by hand with Dad, our entire acre with only hand rakes and shovels. Mom had its dusting and Windexing inside. I have fond memories of cleaning all the china in the cabinet on several Saturday afternoons. There were lazy times, times of drinking in the sunshine, lots of time to create, to sing, to be silly, to climb trees, and to think. They showed me how love builds a house, how love builds a life. This was my story. You have your story, how love built you. Fast forward a few years, okay, so 40 years to today, and I realized that being a parent is a work of art. It's super challenging to bear the demands at work, bills, student loans, keeping food in the house, school events, extracurricular activities, church activities, car maintenance, house maintenance, grocery shopping, not to mention Facebook, email, texting, and Voxer, and all the other social networks that you have in your life. Life is busy. It can be a treat to just sit on the back porch and just think, right? Just think. Or maybe take a little snooze on a Sunday afternoon. We long for those lemonade and burger on the grill moments when life somehow pauses long enough that you can just drink in a few tender moments of watching your kids play or smiling at your spouse as the sun hits their hair. When life seems to slow down for just a minute and life seems to make sense. I want to assure you, dear hearts, all these moments, all your busyness, all your business, your schedule, your demands, it all makes sense. It all has a tremendous and beautiful purpose. It's called love. And if you go home with anything today, please hear that all those little moments of sacrifice, of pain, of joy, of heartache, of questions, of laughter, of trial, of victory, all the wiping noses, wiping your rear ends, helping with homework, filling sippy cups, cleaning sippy cups, applying Band-Aids, kissing boo-boos, buckling in your car seats, combing hair, matching socks, folding and hanging, cleaning and organizing, disciplining, dressing, bathing, celebrating birthdays, book reports, doctor visits, dentist visits, hunting for that one lost shoe, giving hugs and high fives, all of it. It all has a purpose. In the midst of a million repetitions, all the tiny details, dear friends, may we be reminded this Mother's Day to keep the big picture in view. All of these moments are like pieces of a puzzle to create a big picture. They are all opportunities to do one thing: love. Just a few days ago, I had a moment I could not have planned for. A moment that I call a God moment. I have only a handful of those in my pocket over the years. Moments when I look back and I say, God got my attention on that one. Anybody else had a God moment in your life? Yeah. This moment was when God showed me what a life without love, without all those little puzzle pieces of love, what that life looks like. The hardship, the lack of purpose, and the heartache. The kids and I were doing our usual Friday vending accounts. We load up the car. The kids have a checklist. They inventory what we have and then check off what we need to buy at the stores for the day's work. We overload our shopping carts at Walmart and Sam's and labor to fill the van, top to bottom, with packaged goods and sodas and bottles. We headed to several accounts, and then we worked tirelessly at our large account, which is a truck stop, by the way. It was one of those days that we forgot our dollies. So the kids and I had to travel trip after trip after trip from the car, carrying these heavy, heavy loads to the machines. We worked like a machine, filling the machines row by row. Each of us had our part. Now, for the last 4 months, we've had an addition to our business, Dakota. He's been our little tag-along buddy since our daycare has no room for any infants until the end of the summer. So he happily rides along, and he sleeps most of the time, and sometimes he hangs out in my infant pack on my chest. I usually have every few hours I need to attend to him, diapers and bottle feedings and things like this. And so this is where my God moment began. And so this is where Mark is going to come on up, and we're just going to keep it real for you guys and share about our God moment.
So has she done a good job so far? Yeah. She was kind of fretting a little bit. Not sure she was ready to be in front and share the story. But what I want to do is kind of do a little bit of an interview in regards to what happened next that day. And it's really profound. So many of us are used to the things that we've experienced in life, and we don't really get the picture of what some of the other people's lives look like, the messes that they've been in. And she had this moment where things just kind of unfolded, and God brought somebody into her path and really gave her a glimpse into the life of someone who is much less fortunate than most of us. How many of you have had a hard day before? You've been through a day that you've just been like, oh my gosh, I do not want to repeat this. How many of you have ever felt like quitting a job, because it was just, it was rough? Now, if you were to be honest, don't raise your hand on this one, but I think there are times where sometimes we even would say, I'm not sure that maybe I want to quit this relationship. You know what I'm saying? That there's been times, I've shared with you previously in our marriage where we hit a rough spot and we're just both like, I don't know if this is really worth, continuing on. And one of the things I want you to get out of today is that the things that we go through that we think are difficult are nothing in comparison to someone who you're going to hear a little bit about today. And when you quit on your life, when you quit on your family, the effects that it potentially has on those that you care about could completely destroy people for generations. So there's a few things I want you to get before we get into this interview. I want to just mention here, and I'm going to put these on the screen. Number one is I want you to understand how important your role as mother and father is to the livelihood and success of your children. You have no idea, what you do for your kids and what the lack of you would do for your kids. Secondly is that, and I've already kind of mentioned this, as tough as life is for you, it really doesn't compare to many others. And I think it's good this morning to kind of gain some perspective on that. Number three is that there's a difference between a handout and a hand up. And so many times, I think as a church, we've been kind of burnt on giving handouts because of the way that they're received and abused. But what we really need to learn is the secret of giving a hand up, really helping people out of their situation and being able to set them on a path where they can really go forward in life. The fourth thing is that people are in need of the love of a mother. I know so many times, when I've worked with people who are more so in poverty, I've experienced some things that kind of turn me the wrong way, or it feels like they really don't want to move forward in life. We had a lady at one point that we took into our home that was completely just on the streets, and we tried to help her out for a number of weeks. We got her into a home. We paid for her first month's rent. We got her a job. We got her some new clothes, and got her really started again in life. And within 2 weeks, she had upset the guy that it was an older man. That was totally not a couple thing, but just she had upset him because there were some expectations that he had set that she just wasn't willing to work with. And rather than trying to work that out, she just was like, well, fine, I'll just leave. So she got kicked out of her house, and we're like, we paid for that. What are you doing? Get this, and so there were, anyway. This is long story short. She just ended up right back on the streets and just didn't really care, about all the things that we done for her and that sort of thing. And so there's a part of that we wrestle with over the years of, how do you help somebody without just enabling something that really people need to grow out of, right? Now, on the contrast, you think of a mother. And a mother, when a child falls down and gets hurt and they're bleeding, is it enabling the child to go and to care for them and to clean them up? I mean, is it just going to enable them to fall down again if we, help a kid when they're wounded? No, it doesn't enable a child, right? There's a difference, and a mother understands those things. A mother can understand wounds in someone's life and be able to come and administer love in a way that helps a person up. And then the last one I want to mention here is that God is looking for people who would truly love others. When we read through the New Testament, that is the absolute central theme, is love. It has been said that the Apostle John, in his later years, that every day he would come out of his home, in the area where he was, he would come out of his home and he would talk about how important it is to love one another above everything else. Love is the central thing. And he would continue to say some of these same things to the disciples that were around him. And so, this was really powerful. So I want to go into this. So you had an encounter with a woman this week, and tell us kind of how it began, what kind of the beginnings of that was like.
Okay, so I shared with you that I have to take care of Dakota while we're working sometimes, and so I had packed a bottle for him, and I went to put his formula in the bottle and make the bottle, and all of a sudden the bottle fell over into the console. And so water and formula everywhere. And they were out of water at Sam's Club. It's just a God thing that just out of the blue, they don't have any water for us to buy to sell in the vending machine. So normally I just go to the back of the car, I grab a bottle of water, and we start over. There was no water in the car. And so I had to leave the children, my Hannah and Caleb. They're at the truck stop. I know I'm a terrible mother, but you got to know I know these people really well. We've been doing this for over a year. They know our kids. And And so I had to leave and go to the gas station to go buy some water. And right when I pulled up, how many of y'all have ever had this moment where you just feel like something's about to happen? It was just that moment. I looked at this lady. She was up against the gas station wall, and she looked like she was in pain. And it was a kind of like I'm hiding it pain. And if you've ever had pain in your body, you can relate. You can have compassion. You can be like, she's trying to hide that. And she wasn't like a homeless person. There's plenty of them around in Dallas where we were, but she wasn't. I could tell. She just looked like something had just happened, or she had pain in her stomach or something. And so I felt so strong in that moment that God said, you need to help her. And I was by myself, and I thought, oh, well, I'll go pray for her. I mean, we bring heaven down. We'll just take care of that pain right now. That's what my thought was. But yeah, it's kind of hard to say, are you in pain? Someone you've never met. Like, no, do I look like I'm in pain? Is, what they could say. And so I just discerned. I just got out, I went in, I passed by her, we connected eyes, and it was just one of those moments. You're just like, I don't know what to do with this, but this is a moment. So we just said hi, and I passed on, and I went in and I got our water, and I came back out, and she stopped me this time, and she said, ma'am, I'm so sorry to have to ask, but do you mind helping me get something to eat? And I said, you don't have any food? I said, absolutely. You're hungry? Oh, yes, I'm so hungry. And I said, well, yeah. And we were at one of those gas stations that have like the taco joint sticking out of it, and you can actually buy it right then and there. I said, pick anything, so she picks the biggest meal. So she's so hungry. She uses, an enchilada plate, 3 enchiladas, rice and beans, and they don't sell drinks. So I said, let's go inside and get you a drink. She gets the biggest cup, like those 44 ounce, She's so thirsty. She fills it all the way up to the top to it literally was overflowing when she put the lid on. And I said, what's your name? And I believe her name was Jillian. I've been asking the Lord for her name, but I think her name was Jillian. She starts just pouring her heart out to me. I'm so sorry to have to ask you for anything. She goes, and she just had this look of shock. How many of y'all know what that looks like? Like, I don't have a clue what just happened. This look of shock on her face, like she's just trying to figure out what her next step is going to be. And she begins to tell me as we go outside and we wait for her food to be cooked that she's just been left. And the one guy that she was with just literally drove the car with all of her stuff off. And she is stranded at this gas station. He just dropped her off. And she said, all I have is what's in this bag. That's it. And I can tell, you can discern people. You can discern if they're lying, they're making up stories, they're trying to manipulate. You could totally tell there was a pureness in her. She was broken, and she had no clue what to do. She goes, do you have kids? I don't want to keep you, did you have a baby? I said, yes, I have a baby, and there was a foster baby. Tears. You have a foster baby? I said, yeah. I said, I had to come to get him some water for a bottle, and I felt like God told me to help you. Tears. She says, I have a 7-year-old in CPS custody right now. She says, and all I can think about, she sits back and she says, is all the years I've wasted running after love. When I had love. I had love. I had a child, and I ran after love to get love. And she said, can I travel you? And I said, absolutely. And she goes, I said, where are you going? What are you going to do? I mean, you're stranded here at the gas station. And she says, well, I just live over the bridge. I said, well, let's do that. Let's take you home. Let's go over the bridge.
Yeah, one of the things that just really stands out to me already is just the inconvenience. Sometimes we see inconveniences, in our life, and we just get so frustrated. Now I'm going to be late. Now this is going to happen. And it was the inconvenience of, water that spilled and not having water that opened the door for this whole thing to unfold. And, I think about, the Samaritan man, on the road. There's other people that passed by and they didn't have time, or they didn't want to get unclean, right? There was a priest and basically a pastor that, walked by, and then finally a Samaritan, comes by, and he inconveniences himself. I mean, how long did that take, for him to take this man, to bandage him up, take him to a hotel? I'm sure that totally destroyed an entire day, for him on this trip. And yet, he said, on my way back, I'm going to come and check on you again. And in order to be in cooperation with the kingdom of heaven, we need to be mentally, aware of what God is doing. And sometimes it's those inconveniences that lead us to an opportunity to really love somebody, really minister to somebody. And so I'm grateful, just for your willingness to listen to the Lord and to deal, with all of that. But then, this lady, takes you on a further journey and kind of opens the door into her life, a little bit more so. So share, some of the things that she shared with you, just about what her life is like, some of the things that she's been through, some of the traumatic decision that, was avoided. This is kind of incredible. So go ahead.
Yeah. So she says, you know what, I don't know how I ended up here in life. She said, she asked me, she goes, do you go to church? I said, yes, very much so. I said, I'm a pastor's wife, tears. She said, I pray for angels like you all the time. She said, I pray that God will send me an angel. And God sent me an angel today. And she said, what church do you go to? I said, I go to Life Point Community Church. And she goes, where is that? I'd like to go. It just hit me how quick people who experience love want to give back. They want to be at church. And I said, oh, sweetie, I said, it's in Red Oak. She goes, Red Oak? She goes, I grew up in Cedar Hill. And you're not going to believe this. She says, I grew up in a family where my mom and dad, they both went to college, graduated from college. This is not your average homeless person, right? She said, I actually almost got my degree in the culinary arts. I said, you're a chef? She said, yeah. I said, what happened? How did you end up here? She says, when I have to tell you this, I looked at her arms, and her arms had all these wounds on them, all up and down her arms, and they weren't like bruises. I think they were like maybe injection sites. I've not been around a lot of drug people, but they were too perfect. They weren't like someone had hurt her. And so she began to share. She goes, well, I was going to school. I was going to be a chef, and this guy started dreaming with me and made me buy into the dream. And so I followed him, and I just kind of gave it all up, to be his wife. And she says, 14 years later, I've watched him sleep with other women in my bed. I have, been abused by him. We have 2 twin boys, a 17-year-old girl, and now a 7-year-old in CPS custody. I said, what about your 7-year-old? Do you ever get to see, your child? She said, no, they placed him with my ex-husband's ex-wife. I've never met her in all my life. Tears. You could tell she's never going to see this person grow up. And she would like to, but she knows my life is messed up. I don't have any stability. So.
And then, in the midst of kind of unpacking, she was really vulnerable, just some of the things that she was willing to share. People that are, in situations like that, sometimes they experience the tangible hand of God so much more so than we do. We've kind of worked hard, a lot of us, to keep things going and keep going forward in life. And when you have nothing, and you cry out and you see God's hand help. She's been through some rehab type stuff, and she's trying to get her life, back, on track. And she was explaining to Joy, I've just seen him provide so many times, so many ways in my life where he's taken care of me, he's helped me through hard times. And then she, shared, about the story in regards to her ex. You want to share that?
She was so wounded. Again, if y'all don't hear anything else today, people need love. She was running after love and was willing to give up everything else for love. And when that love crushed her, because he gave himself to other women right in her presence, it crushed her to the point of just giving up at all. She found a gun on the side of the road. She told me just 2 days ago, of course I'm driving, we're going over the bridge. She found a gun on the side of the road. Fully loaded, Smith & Wesson. I'm going, where are we going? neighborhood do you live in? What have I gotten myself into? But it's one of those moments where you just follow the Spirit of the Lord. You just trust Him. She said she picked up the gun, and because she was so angry, which we've all been angry, we all have had rage moments, you lose your mind. And she went home. She said, I was like an army person. I stood in the backyard and I stopped and I waited. When he gets home, I'm going to blow his head off, she says. And she said, and you could tell she wasn't deranged. She hadn't lost her mind. She wasn't needing a psychologist to straighten her out. She was suffering. She loved a man, had 4 kids with the guy, and watched him not love her back. And she says, I was going to do it. He came home. I was going to blow his head off and enjoy every moment of it. And then she held up her finger and she said, but God. And I said, whoa, girlfriend, say that again. I said, you said, but God. I said, you know the Lord? She goes, I love Jesus. She said, I love God. He has helped me so much. And she said, God helped me get my senses back and helped me realize that I'd end up in jail the rest of my life, paying for his sin, trying to cover it up. And so in my heart I was going, yeah, because love covers a multitude of sins. And I honored her pain. I grabbed her hand, and you could tell she hadn't been touched, gently in a long time. I held her hand. She held back, and I looked at her while I'm driving. I said, you are such a beautiful lady. And I just speak life into her. I said, you have such value. I don't know why he would ever do that. And tears, And I said, but you made an awesome choice today to be like your daddy in heaven, to just cover it with love, to just not do it. She said, I went and sold the gun for $100, and that's what she's been living on. It's $100.
Yeah. And then, at one point, Joy just really felt led to try to help her some financially. And share some of that experience of making that decision and then where you went and, just the whole environment.
So she tells me to turn left at this stoplight. She says, that church's chicken is where I tried to get a job. I said, good for you. She goes, I worked all my life. I'm a hard worker. You could tell she was. She had muscles. She was thin. You could tell she'd had a hard life, working. And she couldn't keep that job. She went to get the job. They interviewed her, and they said, you need your social security card and something else. Well, her guy had left her and taken all that. So she couldn't even get a job without those things. And so then she tells me to turn onto this road, and she goes, anywhere is fine. And I said, oh no, I don't mind. I'll take you to your house. She goes, oh, anywhere is fine, and kind of gave me a grin. I said, which house? I don't have a problem. Just tell me, which house. She goes, ma'am, I don't have a house anymore. I said, I'm just going to drop you off, and what are you going to do? She says, I walk the streets. Now, I've heard that phrase, walk the streets, before, but I didn't know what it really was. Sorry, that's that moment did me. Our little Dakota and Miriam, their mom runs the streets, is what they told me. From her mom, her grandma told me, I'm so scared Dakota's mom is running the streets. I didn't know what running the streets was. I thought running the streets is like you're being irresponsible. You're sleeping with people. You're shacking up and whatever they give you, and you're running from life. And in that moment, God just undid me and helped me to see that she walks the streets because she has nothing. She has nothing. I told Mark, he asked me to share the story. I said, I'm just going to get up there and bawl. I know y'all weren't in that moment. So I know I can never replay it for you, but I've been a foster mom of 10 kids now. I've always thought that they're just get their act together. As a foster mom, that's how you look at them. Down your nose going, well, you pray they will grow up someday. Not with an attitude like I'm showing you right now, but that's what's kind of going on in my heart, okay? What I saw was a woman who had no support, no family. Her parents are dead and gone. She followed a guy for love, and he dumped her and stole everything she has, and she walks the streets because she has nowhere else to go. So as I was about to drop her, I said, I cannot do this. This is ludicrous. I'm not going to just drop you. I'm watching people loiter the streets. I'm watching men who can barely hold their pants up with one hand, and they're drunk, and there's people yelling at each other, and I'm like, I cannot drop you off here and act like I'm going to go on my own way. I said, what can I do? She goes, there's nothing you can do. I said, well, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going to take this bag of stuff, it's all I have left, and I'm going to go and try to sell it to someone that I think will buy it so I can have some money. And I'm thinking, that'll leave you with one pair of clothes. Like, what are you thinking? but that's what I realized. Without love, there's no options. There's no connections. There's no get on Google and find a job. You see what I'm saying? There's no pick up the phone and go live with mom. When you don't have anything, you need someone to love you because you don't have anything to give. So I said, this is ludicrous. I have to at least give you some money. She's like, ma'am, you don't have to do that. I said, yes, I do. I said, where's the nearest ATM? So as we're going to the ATM, I'm picturing a gas station with a box on a wall. That's what an ATM is in my white American world. She goes, oh, there's one right over here, around the corner. She has me go around this corner, and there's this building, and it's got people flowing in and out like ants. I'd never experienced anything like it before. You go in, and people look you up and down. They're watching you. There's police, and there's this window, like a bank teller, like a plastic window. There's people behind it, and then there's all these people from all different cultures. Some of them couldn't speak English because I'd say, can somebody tell me where an ATM is? And no, okay, well, I guess I'll stand in this line and hopefully it'll end up where I'm supposed to go. All the while I'm counting the minutes because my children are at a truck stop alone. And so as I stand there, this black lady, and I just say black, I'm not meaning anything derogatory at all. I'm just trying to help paint the picture. She comes up to me and she looks me up and down and goes, well, you must think you're all that because every one of those men have been checking you out as you came in the door. And I'm like thinking, oh no. I said, well, good thing I didn't know because I would have been like, yikes. And she was not at all. She was like, you could tell she just was not, anyway. So I got in line. And everyone squeezed like sardines. And I look up at this line that I'm in, and it says, pay your electric bill here, pay your water bill here. It has all these services. Are y'all laughing? Well, in my world, you pay your electric bill online or through bill pay. You don't pay your water bill at the grocery store. That's the size of our church. And I realized these people don't have bank accounts. They can't pay their bill online without a bank account. It opened my eyes. I felt like I was in another world. And I realized this is what people do. This is how they survive. And so I'm standing in the line. I finally get up to the window, and of course now people are checking me out, and I'm breaking, like, God protect me. And I get there, and I very quietly say, is this an ATM? She goes, ma'am, speak up. I don't want to speak up. Can I get money here? Is this an ATM? She goes, yes, just put in your card, just talking really loud, and how much do you want? I said, $100. How much do you want, ma'am? $100. Thinking, I don't want anybody to know that now they're looking at me, and now I have $100 cash on me. I have a woman I want to bless and get back to my babies. And so she gives me the 100. I wrap it up in my hands, and I exit as quickly as I can. I get outside, and people are fighting in the parking lot. I mean, I'm going to say they're drunk, but just flail on their hands and and she's you know, and I'm just like, in this world where there's no love, there's only chaos and trying to survive to your next meal. And did I cover what you guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just, you know, I don't know where you guys all come from, but in our upbringing, that's pretty foreign. How many of you have ever experienced something like that? You've kind of been around that a little bit or seen that before. Okay, so some of you are more experienced than we are, but a lot of people live like that all the time. You know, that's the journey that they're constantly on, and there is this kind of loop that you were sharing that people get kind of caught in this cycle. Can you unpack that for a second in regards to, you know, especially for us, you know, as foster parents. Our desire is to see, you know, the goal of the, what do you call it? I want to say company, that's not the right word. The agency that we work with has been very clear that, you know, the goal is reunification. You know, that the kids are taken because they're in a dangerous situation. They want to see the parents, you know, get back on track and be able to have their kids back. But we see that doesn't always work. A lot of times that doesn't work. A lot of times they try for a little bit and then they go right back to their old ways, or a lot of times they don't even try. They just go, you know what? You know, in one case, we heard recently that mom took her baby to CPS and said, "I'm tired of dealing with the baby." You know, mindset, the experience of a lot of these people, families are just in such a difficult place, and it begins to kind of spiral into this cycle that is extremely difficult to get out of. And so share a little bit about what you were seeing in regards to that cycle.
Well, I think that's what broke me the most that day, is because I realized that option after option had been removed from her life. And so my next thing that I told her right before I went into the ATM is, I want you to dream for just a minute. The word dream had completely come out of her vocabulary. There's no dreaming, there's just survive. And I said, if you could do anything, if I could do anything, what would the step be that you need to get back on track with your life? I said, I want you to think about that. What is the step that I need to take to get back on track? And of course, I was standing in the ATM line and I was thinking about it. She was thinking about it in the car, eating food. And I said, when I came back, she had thought, and first thing she said was, I'm going to put myself back in rehab. And that's when I first realized the people that start these rehabs are so selfless, because they realize that basic necessities have to be provided before any other change is going to happen in their life. They need a house, they need food, they need clothes. She was so excited. She goes, at least there I can get, I could go to church. And she smiled on Sunday, and they'll take me to chapel on Wednesday night, and I'll have Bible study and support. And she said, then they'll train me in some things, and hopefully I can get a job again. She goes, I need to do this for my kids, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to help me see that kids are worth it. And I said, just think, you can be the reason that your children turn around when you give attention to them and you start trying to provide what they need that you didn't have. But I began to really think about, as she asked me to drive her down the street a ways, she said, oh, you can drop me at this other little store. And so, again, I don't even know why they call these stores. It didn't look like a store. It looked like a barred something. And again, men just standing out within 10 feet of our car, just barely holding their pants up. One of them knocked on the window and, give me some money, this kind of look. And she's like, go on. And of course, I'm like, I'll drive reverse right now. But we're having a God moment, so I'm just going to trust, And he gets mad at her. She's used to this. She's used to shoe fly, don't bother me. And I'm used to, safety and protection. They know no safety. They know no protection. And what hit me, and this is, just as a foster mom, and I don't know how this applies to your life, okay? But I realized that these girls, they go looking for love And these men use them. And then they get pregnant, and bye-bye men, and this girl is stuck with this baby. She has no clue how she's going to provide. She may even get on drugs in order to have that love fulfilled. If she's wounded and she's hurt, then she gets on drugs to mask it, to cover her pain. And I know so many women, so many moms. My very first, how many of y'all remember Fabian? My little Fabian, he was my little Hispanic baby. He was my third baby. His mom had all kinds of stories about why she took different drugs, and it was always to cover her pain, just emotional pain. And, you know, and so I just saw this cycle, these women who don't have, and so then they're abused or used, and then the men are bye-bye, so they have to figure out how to provide. So now they've got to get a job. If they don't have any support, that's virtually impossible. Then they've got to go to the hospital, have their babies, and they have these dreams, because I've heard them, of raising their baby and being a better mom, and their babies are taken from them immediately. They never get to be with their baby. They go to houses like mine, where I get to love on them. And so then they're required to be at court on certain days, and they're supposed to show up at visits every week for 2 hours. They don't have a car. How are they supposed to get there? So a lot of times they can bum a ride from somebody for so long, and those somebodies trickle out of their life because they're sick and tired. They certainly don't want to do it long term. So then they stop showing up to their visits because they want to be there, but they can't. With Dakota and Miriam's mom, they said that she could keep Dakota. Y'all saw I got him at 1 month instead of right out of the hospital. That she could keep Dakota if she had someone live with her. Well, when you're living on the streets and nobody's responsible, then it's really hard to find a roomie to live with you and pay bills and do the responsible live in an apartment thing. But she did it. She found a roomie to live with her. And then the roomie got sick and tired of being subjected to CPS showing up whenever they wanted to do drug testing. And so roomie wanted to be on drugs, or was on drugs, and so turns out that roomie was sick of it and moved out. Well, if Dakota's mom is trying and she has to have a roommate, but roomie moves out, she's stuck again. How is she supposed to provide all of rent now? You see what I'm saying? So it's just this cycle where they try, they fail, they try, they fail. They need that hand up. They need some support. And that's what I told her. I said, I see this over and over, that people that don't have support, like, I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to hold you up till you get through this. And then, yeah, you expect them to grow and to get on their own feet at some point. But she has no support, so she's just going to lose her babies. And then what? She's going to sell her bag of clothes. And then what? What is she going to do? That's where my brain began to go, she's probably going to prostitute her body, because that's all she has. And then what? The cycle begins again. And it just broke me. But I'll tell you what really, just for me as a foster mom, and I look in Dakota's eyes, and he's the happiest baby I've ever seen my whole life. This little bitty baby who does not know his mama. He'll never know his dad, who's in jail. And I look at his happiness, and I see God's faithfulness. That God has a purpose on every single life. And he's placed in my home for 5 months, and then he's going to go on to live with this family in Oregon forever. And God is going to provide for him. But it takes the church rising up and handing help to these kids. These babies, they have to have moms. And that was the moment I came home and I said, this is my God moment. I don't know what I'm doing with the rest of my life. I don't have a clue most days if I'm supposed to be a pastor's wife or if I'm supposed to homeschool or all of it. But I know I'm supposed to be a foster mom after this, because the last thing she said when she got out the door, she looked at me, we prayed together. I held her hand, I prayed over her, I encouraged her with rehab. Gave her the $100. She prayed for me, which just blew my mind. And she stepped out and she goes, ma'am, I think you need to hear this. I think God just told me. And it was one of those moments where I'm like, not just all ears because somebody's sweet and telling me, no, I felt like God was speaking directly through her because it went straight to my heart. She said, He wanted you to see today how you're helping people like me every day. And I thought, I'm not helping you every day. I'm dropping you off with $100 on the concrete to walk the streets. But it helped me to see that I'm helping to raise her babies. All those hers that I keep getting their babies, I'm raising their babies, which makes the babies get out of the cycle. Because CPS is taking and rescuing these babies out of that cycle. And yes, it hurts mama. It hurts mama to have baby taken away. But baby is good. Could you imagine her with a baby walking the streets? Where is she going to get formula? Where is she going to get diapers? She's not going to have support. So CPS has to make those hard decisions to completely alter a child's whole future and come in and rescue those babies. And then I get the privilege. I don't have the hard part. I don't have to see the pain. I don't have to make that hard decision on, am I going to take this child? I get the baby, and I get to be mama. I get to be God's mama heart to this baby. And these babies are only happy because I'm loving them. I'm holding them. I'm kissing them. I'm touching. I'm feeding every 3 hours. I'm putting them to bed. I'm giving them a safe place. And all those things I read that my parents did for me. And they're happy. And so it's not this magical formula to be an amazing parent. But there's a lot of people that can't be parents, is where I got to. Is they're not able. The cycle is too vicious. And so it made me believe in the rehab programs. It made me believe in CPS. And it made me believe in the church rising up. I came home to my kids and my husband and I said, the church needs to rise up. They need to rise up. I only helped one lady. I saw a whole neighborhood. And we live in our sweet little houses. And we complain about our salary, our taxes went up this year. They don't know where their next meal's coming from. And they're putting guns on the side of the road. And they're making babies to eat. Do you hear me? When I look at Jesus, He came for those people. He did not come for people who don't need God, who have it all together. And it wrecked me, y'all. It wrecked me because I realized the church is asleep. We have got, he says, true religion. James 1:27. True Christianity. All this that we're calling, that we're doing, is to look after orphans, to look after widows. And why? Because they have nothing. Orphans and widows cannot provide for themselves, so they have to find ways to provide. And that's why when the church steps in and does that, it provides the safety around their lives that helps them succeed. And then they can go and be a blessing and be productive in everything we want them to be, right? But somebody has to be that for them. And there's too few. There's too few, and I'm not putting us on a pedestal because, y'all, it's hard. There's so many days. Our whole family complains about this process. It is not fun, okay? I'm not calling anyone into fun. I'm calling us to be what Christ says to be. And that means to be inconvenienced.
Amen. You know, I think as a church, we long to see the churches fill up with revival, right? People turn their lives to Jesus Christ. How many would like to see this church just jam-packed, multiple services with people that are giving their lives to Jesus Christ? And that is absolutely our heart. Probably the greatest modern-day revival that I have ever seen or heard about happened in Mozambique, and is still going on to this day. Mozambique, Africa. There was a family that moved over to Mozambique through a number of God's circumstances and was given, of all things, an orphanage with no kids at the time. Maybe a few kids, but very, very few. And one thing, led to another thing, led to another thing. And their hearts as pastors in the ministry for years and years and years in the States, in England, and different countries, was, we want to see, adults get, radically saved and come to Jesus Christ. And God spoke especially to the woman and said, I want you to go and just love kids, love these orphans. And so they went over to Mozambique, and they spent the next months and years learning the language and just loving on little children that had been abandoned, that had been put in the sex trade, that all these kind of things. And they just one by one took them home and figured out a way to give them some kind of food, to give them some kind of meal. And out of all of the other efforts of church planting and all the things that they had tried to do to win people to Christ, they just felt like that the church just wasn't growing, wasn't doing anything. And in the midst of this experience of loving on kids, they saw one of their first dramatic, incredible miracles where they had a group of about 15 to 20 kids that they were taking care of. And the building that they were renting was their office and their home and all that stuff. All these kids, the landlord kicked them out and says, you guys can't stay here anymore. And so they had to walk. The kids kind of said, we could probably just take care of ourselves. And they took the smallest of the kids and they walked to another city, which was like a day's walk to get there. And they had one friend in another city. And unbeknownst to them, all of the kids continued to come and to find their own way. They knew where the city was, who this person was. And so as they get there to this place, their friends say, oh my gosh, man, this story is just terrible. We'd like to make you some dinner. And so they cook up basically some spaghetti, some noodle kind of food, very, very cheap. Just throw some things together. They say, give us a little bit and we're going to cook it. So they go, they cook, they work on cooking. They're cooking for a family of 4 is what they're thinking. And then all the other kids show up. So now there's 20 kids or so. And so they come back in, they bring the food for the family of 4, and now it's the whole room is filled with people and kids, and so they look at this and they talk directly to the missionaries and they say, listen, you've got to take care of yourself in order to be able to take care of these kids. And so we've made this for you. You need to eat this, and we'll figure something out for the kids. There was absolutely no other food available. And she said, I really honestly didn't have this great amount of faith. We'd just been kicked out of this other building, that sort of thing, but I just knew that I needed to take care of my kids. And so she began to take this bowl and dish out noodles into other bowls, and they just dished out, 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 and literally this bowl never ran empty. And they watched this guy multiplied food to feed all 20 or so of these kids and the adults and the extended family. And God just did multiplication in our day. I'm talking, this was like 10 years ago when this happened. This is today that he's alive. And then one thing just continued to lead to another, and they've seen the most rapid amount of growth. Matter of fact, it is one of the strongest Muslim strongholds in all of Africa. Islam has been on TV, and they're saying they're taking over the world. Every country that they go to, they're bringing people from Indian religions and Eastern religions and Christianity, and they're converting them to Islam, and they're boasting about how they're taking everything over. And they say, but there's only one country that we're struggling to win, and it's Africa. It's because in Africa they're raising the dead. They're raising the dead over there. There are people that when people die, they go and they pray for these people that have died, and they come back to life. And the whole villages in Islam are coming to Christ, and they've seen this massive revival where Mozambique is getting completely, just revolutionized. It was war-struck, and flooding had happened and wiped out all their crops, and they just, through love, is where they started. They started with the simplest thing.
They share other stories about God multiplying. Any of us can think, oh yeah, well, spaghetti, you just get a little bit. Anybody can multiply spaghetti. Had the same thing with steak. God multiplied steak. It's a little harder to multiply. He also multiplied bananas. There was only one bunch of bananas available for this whole hundreds and hundreds of people. And a whole horde of men started fighting over the bananas, to pull the bananas, and the bananas never run out. There was multiple bananas. Everybody got a banana that day. Many, many, many stories about how just doing God's work, just loving people, and He always provides.
And so where I want to try to take us today is, it's Mother's Day, and mothers have a special gift from God to be able to give selflessly. I have so many times look at my life and the way that she selflessly gives to these foster children, these infants. Once she gets them, at least a couple months old, and they're done through the whole I can't sleep through the night thing and all that stuff, and they start to smile for the first time, then I'm ready to start kind of helping take over and love these kids when it starts getting a little easier. But man, I mean, it's ridiculous to me how she's able to wake up in the middle of the night, time after time after time, and care for these little ones and love them. And that's just one aspect that I've experienced through Joy. But moms have this just incredible gift to be able to pour out when there's nothing left, to find something else, to be able to give and sacrifice and help. And that's a piece of God. That's a piece of God that He desires to give. And unfortunately, a lot of times what happens is that we just allow that focus to be on our family. We bring that love and we receive it into our family. But God is looking for people who will let that love overflow from our family into other people's lives. And so we do want to mention to you, maybe you want to consider fostering. Maybe that's something that you can choose to do at some point in your life. It's a process, it's not something that you could do just tomorrow. It takes a while to go through the things that you have to go through, but maybe that's something that as a church we could raise up a church that's part of our heart, is to be foster parents and to reach out to these kids that are orphaned and can't, don't have what they need. There's lots of kids that still need homes in the foster system.
Let me share a little there. As we learn more, of course, I do babies because I believe if a baby is raised early on with love, you don't have to undo messes. So that's what I've been called to do. But there's many, many, many children that are in elementary school age, and they know mom and dad, and they know you're not mom and dad, and it gets a little harder. But they are so what's the word? They bounce back so quick to love. Love is the greatest healer. And so they know that you're safe and they respond to you. But the kids that make it all the way through foster care, that are teenagers, it's crazy. It's crazy the statistics on these kids' lives. It's like up in the 90th percentile that they will be in jail at some point in their life. Why? Because of love. Because they never experienced love. Maybe they found a home where they got a meal and they played with them and they sent counselors in. That's not love. That's not the same kind of love. These kids, I'm telling you, the 90th percentile, they will end up in jail because of anger, because of feeling, neglected, unwanted. They don't see their own worth. They don't see their value. They've been that rejected orphan that says, you're not worth nothing. And they realize they have to do everything for themselves. Everything is a hard thing for them. And so they go through their entire life messed up. But we can turn that around. We can turn that around. And it's one life at a time. And yes, it's a sacrifice, but no greater love, Jesus said, no greater love than to lay our lives down to help somebody else. Right?
Amen. And then outside of fostering, I just want to kind of keep putting back on our radar to be looking out for the one. Who's the one person that God wants to put in your life for you to be able to let some of that love overflow? The power of the love of a mother. Men, I know that's kind of a little maybe weird for us as men, but I mean, God created man and woman in His image. Woman is the female reflection of God. Man is the male reflection of God. And yes, we see Him as Father. That's what He's described in the word as Father. And I'm not trying to get weird on theology, but you've got to understand that, He talks about this aspect of love over and over and over. We've got to let that overflow. We've got to go, who is the one? Who is the one that we can help, we can take care of? Maybe it's this week, maybe it's this month, whatever it is, but let His love flow through us. Amen? Stand with me if you will, and let's just wrap up in prayer. Joey, come on down here with me.